I'm Jen, and welcome back to my channel. As many of you know, I am a woman in long-term recovery. I am CARC, I am CRPA, I am a rape crisis counselor, and I am an Narcan. If you look in my description box down below, you will find the link to all my social media, things that I've been involved with. You will find a video that describes what a CARC, a CRPA, and a rape crisis counselor are and how in New York State you can obtain those credentials. You will also find all my social media. I'm sorry if you guys hear cars passing in the background. We live right off a noisy street. And as you all know, I just made a little filming room and we are in the process of figuring out how to quiet it. So please bear with me on that. So if you look in the description box down below, you will also find all of my Amazon wish list links. There are several at this time. There is my regular go bag ones, which I use to help people in my local community who are just struggling, who just came home from incarceration, experiencing homelessness, or have just come home from rehab. I also have a Mother's Day wish list down there, and I have a harm reduction wish list that is available by request only. So with all that being said, I have a special guest with me today. I would like you all to please be introduced to my friend Jordan. And Jordan is going to explain to you this amazing book that he has written. And I'm a huge, huge fan of it for multiple reasons, which we will get into. Jared actually listened to it as well, and he has the attention span of a flea, and he was like very involved with it. We had a whole conversation about it. So what's up, Jordan? Welcome.
Morning. Well, it's morning out here in Hawaii. How are you?
Right. Here it's about probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. So we are in a different time zone, to say the least.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of where you live.
Well, this is home. This is where I'm from. So, and I'm also next to a busy road. So it's going to be an interesting interview.
When it's either dead quiet or it's like every tractor trailer in the world wants to go through, because we're like the go-between road between the main highways. So it's just ridiculous sometimes. So is Hawaii where you were born and raised? Like, what? Give me the spiel. Give me your condensed life story version.
So my father was naval intelligence, and I was actually born in Virginia. But the day I was born, there was a photographer at the hospital that took my picture for my diplomatic immunity passport, because we were going to Russia. So he had orders for the whole family to go to Russia. This was in '85. And he went and he did his duty. He did his job there for 2 years. And when the time was up to leave, they said, you can go anywhere in the world you'd like to. And he said, I'll go to Hawaii. I pick Hawaii. So yeah, right. Can't blame him. I was there during Chernobyl. I don't remember it. I just have I just have photos, but he has crazy stories, as you can imagine. But yeah, basically I grew up here. So moved here when I was 2, and I'm the youngest of 3 boys, my mom and dad. And yeah, we came out here. It's, it's the most isolated landmass in the world, and also all of our families in Kansas and California. So I kind of grew up without extended family. However, in Hawaii, the culture is everyone's your auntie, everyone's your uncle. And so we have like our own family that, has always been around, and now they're around for my son. Really cool.
That's awesome. Oh my God. And he's so cute. What is he? He's like 3 months old.
What was that?
What is he, like 3 months old?
He turns 4 months on the 5th. And he's getting big quick. Yeah. He's such
a cute little boy.
I know. Oh yeah. But that's how I ended up here. So, family came here. My dad retired shortly after we moved here. They started their own small awning company here in Honolulu. And this is where I grew up. And I've lived here up until the point where I went to college, and I went to college in Portland, Oregon, got into quite a bit of trouble. I was getting into trouble well before I left, but like they say, you take yourself with you wherever you go. And so I had my time there, and fortunately ended up coming back home, and I came back here and went into a 2-year long-term inpatient program, which was probably the best thing that could have happened for me. Definitely. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions for you. As I'm sure you know. So what made you decide to write this book? Like what was the pivotal point in your life where you were like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to tell my life story because I feel like what made you like what? So for me, I tell my story when I meet people that I see struggling because I know it's relatable to them and they won't feel so alone. So for me, it's more like a building a bridge piece. What made you decide to go and write a book, which is so awesome, by the way?
So I was never an aspiring author. I didn't try writing before this. I didn't really ever have an interest in it, to be honest. Basically, I got sober. I walked into a 2-year program in 2011, and I've been clean and sober since. And I learned a lot, and that's my home group. So Sand Island Treatment Center is my home group, but it's a closed group. And it's also because it's a closed group, it's not something a lot of people know about. It's something people maybe hear about. There's a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of like word on the street. And there's also a lot of people that have gone there and they just want to share their experience, good or bad. About 2 years ago, I decided I wanted a challenge. I'm very much into hobbies and exploring different things in life and recovery. And I wanted to write a book, but the thing was, it didn't start off as a memoir. It actually started off as sort of like a lessons learned in recovery, like a short little book. And I had a really close friend who's like, hey, you're not a counselor. You don't have a CSAC. You're not a doctor. Why don't you tell your story and let your truths sort of resonate and shine through? And that completely changed everything. And that turned it into a memoir. And once I decided to do that, it became a really lengthy process. I started going through my timeline, pulling my court records, my medical records, my detox records, my mug shots, interviews, court transcripts, a lot of things. And then I talked to a lot of people that lived through that experience with me, like my mom, and that was really hard for her. But the reasons changed as I was doing it. So it started off as like a challenge. And then I realized that this is something that maybe could teach a lot of people. Then I realized I could break through some stigmas over what inpatient treatment is, because if you've never been and it's proposed to you or you're considering it, it's scary. It's a really terrifying thing to think you can walk away from the life that you have, whether it's a life that you have or not. And so to wrap your head around that is difficult. And I wanted to show people that it really can be a beautiful thing. It can be a wonderful tool. And when it comes to fighting addiction, we need all the tools we can get. And inpatient treatment's not for everyone. I actually stumbled into it. I didn't necessarily know what I was walking into, but looking back at my life, it was the best thing that happened. And so that was why I started, was to basically just share some truths and kind of give away what was so freely given to me, which is part of the program. And it's been a wonderful experience. It's connected me with people. It's made me more outgoing and speaking about my journey. And by the way, my book is not just my journey. As you know, there's a lot of people involved. I'm an addict like so many other addicts. It's not that I'm special. I just had a lot of people in my life that helped guide me in the right direction. And I wanted to tell their story too, because it's really difficult for an addict to recover on their own. Having a support group is a blessing and a privilege, and not everyone has it. But parents that have read my book have reached out to me, and it's kind of changed their perspective. I've had people from in the medical community that are frustrated working with addicts in the ER reach out to me and say, this is like a different perspective. I get like this other side. And it's a really beautiful thing. And much like YouTube videos and sharing knowledge like you do and sharing overdose training, a book is the same way. We can teach people about whatever we decide to put into it. And so I've fallen in love with it. I went from failing English in high school to writing a book, and it's really healing too. So these are things that I didn't know I was walking into. But it's
like you brought up two really good points. So your parents, I love them and I don't even know them. I think you have just such amazing, loving, kind, supportive, caring parents. Like your parents are the epitome of what parenting is, and they should be very, very proud of themselves. They loved you when you needed to be loved. They put their foot down when they needed to. You know, your mom, she's a kick-ass chick. Like I truly have love for that woman. I commend her for how she was. And when you needed her, she was there. But when things were, she was like, no, that's not happening anymore, so
Yeah.
she still instilled boundaries for herself. And that's a very hard thing to do, especially when you love somebody with all your heart as parents love their children, so I commend her. And I truly care for your parents. I think they're wonderful people, and I got to know them vicariously through this book. So I'm grateful for that. And another good point that you brought up. So people working in the emergency department tend to get jaded because it's a revolving door of addicts coming in looking for sobriety, not really looking for sobriety, looking for a way to get better, but not in the sense of recovering, so I think it's very important when we see things like this and can get a different perspective that we normally wouldn't see, And Jared and I were just talking about this the other day. One thing that I truly, as a woman in long-term recovery who has been in a lot of similar situations as yours, one thing that I really appreciate, and it doesn't happen very often, unfortunately, your book doesn't glorify use. You're not like reminiscing, shooting the shit, and telling. There's no feel good about the act. And I really, really appreciate that. Very, very much so. That I probably really haven't read many recovery-esque memoir type books that there's zero glorification in it. And at no point in time do you glorify it, but you still give such a raw, accurate, descriptive detail of what the life is like and what you went through. And I'm just such a huge fan. So how we ended up getting together, in case people don't know, is Lucia, who is also a subscriber and now a friend of mine, has been friends with Jordan for how long?
A long time. No, we've for a bit. Basically since the book came out.
Okay, so she sent me a Audible. She was like, I think you'll really like this. And I was like, I trust Lucia. Like, we're very, very similar. I said, all right, let me give it a go. And I turned it on and I said, holy shit, this is fucking good. I even messaged Jared at work and I was like, babe, you're going to have to listen to it. This is fucking good. And I messaged Jordan and I was like, hey, no, you don't know. Love the book. And here we are. So I just love the fact that it's just, I don't know, it's so well written and it's so raw and it's so accurate, but yet it's not a, you should try this type of feeling, which sometimes gets crossed over in these types of novels and books and whatnot. And I just, I love how you make it so I feel like I know your family and the stories you tell. And I love the fact that you were a year into your rehab program and you were like, I know something's not right. Like, I'm not living my best life the way I'm supposed to. I'm going through the steps, but it's not really happening because you had outstanding charges in another state. And I love the fact that you stepped up and you went and you took care of them and you laid your cards out on the table for the court system. And I personally know how difficult that is. That's a very hard thing to do, especially when things are just seeming to come together and you have to go and jump back feet first into that bullshit. So I commend you for that.
Yeah, that was a very difficult thing. One thing I will say back on what you commented about not glorifying, you're absolutely right. That was a very intentional. I was very aware when I was writing that I wasn't trying to write a book to be salacious off of selling a myth that heroin and cocaine IV addiction is anything great. And so I wanted to tell a story of recovery. I needed to draw people into my story to show them how bad it was. So there was some scenes that flashbacked or reflected on my opening scene, but the lion's share of the book is a book on recovery. And so I didn't want to be one of those authors that just, that's an easy way to go. Everyone's interested in what it was like. I wanted people to know like what it's like now. And so that was really important. As for turning myself in, that was really scary. That was and that was very difficult because I was in a 2-year inpatient program as a walk-in and I left. a year in. I was already at that point in transition, the transition phase, meaning I was out working with my family business, but then living at the program. But I had this black cloud hanging over me everywhere I went. And I just knew that I was going to have to face it at some point. And the thing with Sand Island was constantly telling you, do the right thing, get the right results. They beat that into your head. And that's part of my ethos and morals today is do the right thing for the right reason when no one's looking. And I decided to do it. And it was, I had these like notions that the judge would be happy for me, and he was happy for me, but he was also like, okay, now that I congratulated you on going into treatment, we have a legal system for a reason. And if everyone was going around just doing what they thought was best, our world would crumble. And so he didn't just like dismiss it. And I'm so fortunate because Sand Island stepped right back up and they were there for me, and they are there for me still. It's a really amazing thing. And it's why I'm here talking to you. I've had so much support, so many people that lifted me up and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Right. And that's the thing with doing the next right thing. Like once you develop that integrity and it gets ingrained in you, like it's hard to not like it. I know for me, because I did shock incarceration camp, it was 6 months and it was due to my legal issues. And, I learned so much about me and the world and just crazy. It changed my whole life. It truly did. And I truly learned what integrity was. Yeah. And now I just continue to do the next right thing. Even when things are not going well, I do the next right thing, and something miraculously always comes along with a helping hand. Yeah. Or, I see the picture clearer. And once that gets ingrained in you, think about it. Like if you didn't do that year in the rehab and then you went to the court and you were like, hey, I'm here, you wouldn't have gotten that amazing gift of being able to go back, continue. Sandoval wouldn't have stepped up to put you back into their cocoon, so to speak. Yeah. It's just amazing how, for me, my higher power makes it so it's possible for me to continue on this beautiful pathway of recovery that I've embarked on.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely had, I didn't know what I was walking into. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be free. I wanted to, I'm so fortunate. I had possession, distribution, felony charges. I had so many failure to appears. I never went back to court. In my book, I've got like how many mugshots to open up. And I'm fortunate. I walked away relatively unscathed. I don't have a criminal history. I'm not a felon. I've done many felonious acts, but that's just how life goes. And it's tough because the criminalization of substance use disorder makes it really difficult for people in long-term recovery that walk away with this background that lingers. It makes it difficult for housing. It makes it difficult for employment. You have to explain it at job interviews, and it's tough. Debilitating. It's debilitating. And that was like the beautiful thing of working with my family business was they hired me, but they interviewed me just like any other employee. But as I worked my way up, because I was a son, I didn't get like a great job. I started off as a janitor and in the install team, and I moved my way up. But eventually we started hiring from the program. And up until I left, we had like 7 or 8 clients from the program. Now we've gone through maybe 20 or more. We've had a lot of employees that we hired that relapsed and didn't make it or chose to go a different route. But there's a lot of guys out there living life, and they're doing really good. And they have a lot of employees with felonies, but they gave them an opportunity like they gave me, and it's paid dividends. I can tell you that some of their most loyal and best attitude employees are the ones that come from a space of gratitude. And you can't, and they hired someone that, it's like their first time having a job, and not a lot of places. Yeah, but like not a lot of places do that. And it was such a beautiful thing. And that was the most enjoyable part of working with them. I worked with my family business for a long time, and I love that. And it was the same for everyone. It was the same terms. It was the same agreement. Yeah, the whole, I'm so fortunate. I'm so fortunate that I could walk away and really make the life that I want. I've always dreamt about. It's a beautiful thing. I'm coming up on 10 years clean off heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. And it's
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I never would have thought that. I never thought it was possible to get clean. I never thought it was possible for people like me to get clean and stay clean. I thought
and have this amazing, beautiful life, right? Like, it's crazy. Like, I am such a grateful recovering addict.
Yeah.
I'll always be recovering. I'll never be recovered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for all of it. And I'm so grateful for the life that I've been able to make. And in all sincerity, the life that I've been able to make is all because of my addiction in the past. You know, I had to go through all of that. I had to weather that storm to come out this badass that I know I'm capable of being now. Yeah. And it gives me the fuel to fight for people who are still in it. Yeah. You know, because I know how possible it is and how amazing it can be. You know, and think about it. If I didn't go through all that, this platform right here would never exist, and you and I would not even know who each other are. And I love that we're able to build this strong, passionate, powerful community that we're building. And it's such a beautiful thing. It truly is.
Yeah. Addicts, alcoholics in recovery, they're some of the most empathetic people. They're some of the most creative people. They're some of the most driven. And, you know, I'm 35. I got sober when I was 25, 26. And to think that, like, I fumbled around since I was 16 years old, drugs and alcohol. My first DUI when I was 16, my second DUI when I was 17, kicked out of high school, on probation for a year before I'm even an adult, you know, and I fumbled through life trying to convince myself that I was a functional alcoholic and addict, and I never was. I lied to myself for a long time. I figured it out when I was 26. I got clean and sober when I'm 26. I get the rest of my life clear-headed, driven, with this like fire behind me, like push. Yeah. And that's a crazy thing. And where I come from is why I am the person I am today. You know, I still have like criminal thinking that I don't act on. My mind still goes to places, but that's part of me. But I don't follow those thoughts through, or I follow them through and tell myself that's not going to happen. That's not where we're going. And you're right. We then get to go on and help other people, and it's a really cool thing. It's a really cool. It's a really cool feeling. It makes
us so able to relate to people who are still out there. You know, like, a lot of my people are still in active use. And sometimes people say to me, like, oh my God, like, how do you associate with someone who just did such and such?
Yeah.
Because I get it. Like, it's an act of desperation because they're so sick still. It's not because they're a bad person or whatever. They need someone to not judge them for 5 minutes so they can breathe and just be themselves. And sometimes that's just the difference that it takes, you know? I mean, I have one girl that I've worked with for over a year now, and she just went into rehab 2 weeks ago. And when I tell you, the day before she left and we spoke on the phone, I hung up and I sobbed like a baby, because I'm so proud of her for everything she's been through. And I am so proud of the woman that she is and the mother she's going to be. And I've been in her shoes, and I said to her, I was like, baby, you don't even understand. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. You aren't even going to be able to understand the beauty that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it just, because we've been there personally, we understand no one can relate better than someone, you know, that lived life experience piece is monumental.
For sure.
That's why the movement is so incredible as well.
All of the staff members, like 99% of the staff members at Sand Island are addicts in recovery that have gone through the program at least once. Some of them have gone through it, gotten sober, relapsed, and then went through it again. And so that was, I walked into that program not knowing it was a 2-year program. I was running from warrants. I just was like, okay, I'll go wherever. I didn't think it was possible to get clean. And I ended up at this place really with no idea what it was. I just thought I'd like needed a breather, let the heat cool down. You know how my book opened. There was a lot of trauma in my immediate like world at that time. But
yeah.
I ended.
So just to give the viewers a quick. So the opening of this book is incredibly, incredibly powerful and captivating. So Jordan goes in to explain how he was homeless and living on the street, and he had a buddy that he was living with, and his buddy ended up overdosing and passing away. So that is the beginning part of how the story starts, and it's very heartfelt and gripping and honest and raw, and just that I sat down halfway through the beginning of that and I was like, damn, like it pulled me in, and it was just gripping. I don't know how else to say it. It's just so raw and so accurate, and he didn't sugarcoat anything, and he started to walk away, and then he was like, you know, I can't do this, like I have to call the authorities. So that just gives you a little beginning part of how it started, and it pulled me in immediately. I was like, damn, okay, this guy's for real. Let me see what he's got to say. And within like 10.5 hours, I listened to the book.
Yeah, that was a very difficult. It was very difficult to live through. It was difficult to write about. I opened my book with my friends passing for what we talked about earlier about, you know, if we're going to talk about heroin addiction, we're going to talk about what it really is. I'm not a rock star. We're going to talk about like what it looks like for most people. And when I woke up next to my friend who had passed away, I rolled him over and I dug through his pockets for dope. And that was something that I hated about myself for a very long time. I thought back about that and I had very low opinions of who I was as a human, not understanding that I was sick and I was enduring a horrible addiction of body, mind, and spirit. I put that in there because I want people to know that to me, that's my rock bottom's basement. That's like, it doesn't get much worse than that. But then it's nowhere to go but up from there. Now it took a long time. It took me months for that to sink in because I was so dumbed down, emotionless, sick. I didn't get to experience or process that when it happened. I didn't go somewhere. I didn't hang up the phone and sob my eyes out. I went straight to my dealer and I copped and that's what I did. That's all I knew. That's what I knew. That's how I could fix the situation, was to numb myself. That's what I was telling myself. Writing the book, you know, if you're someone that's experienced something and you've bottled it up for a long time, writing is extremely therapeutic. I didn't know that. I learned that through the process. I learned that through trying to relive and then explain what it taught me. That's like to me, that was the evolution. You know, my book wasn't a good read on draft one, but I kept at it and I wanted to communicate like what I learned, what I felt, how I felt, why that's important. And by doing that, I fell in love with writing. And if anyone out there has a story that they want to tell, I mean, I'm an independent author. I publish this on my own. I put it out on my own with a great team, a great editor, a friend, Kate Wadsworth, who did the cover, Ryan Haugen, who, as you know, did the beautiful audiobook that brought so much emotion to my story.
It was so well done. Like, it was so well done.
Yeah. So there, and then everyone in my story, of course, but this was like, it was just such a healing process. One of my favorite things about Staten Island was that they required you to journal every day in silence for like 15 minutes, your 10th step. And you just wrote freehand, whatever. They had like a list to follow if you got stuck. But I saved all those journals and then I got to go back and I got to transcribe everything. And so when people are like, how do you remember what you were feeling? You said you didn't sleep for the first month. I didn't, but I wrote every day. And when I went back and I opened those journals, because I saved everything, that was like the beauty of this process, was going through all that, because coming up on a lot can change in 10 years. life can get good. I can have a wife, I can have a baby, I can own my home, a lot can go in the right direction, but that like really brought me home to be like, okay, where did it all start? And for me, it all started when I got clean and sober. And yeah, this is so much fun talking about. I love it.
You know, that's the one thing, like people are always like, oh, your YouTube channel or whatever. And I was very apprehensive about starting it because I just feel like, well, I should say, first off, I felt like I was going to make a fool of myself. And then I thought, who cares what I have to say? Who am I? But then I got this amazing community of people, and I love them. Like literally, I know which ones are pregnant, who just went into rehab, who's this, who's that. We talk, who had a job interview the other day, who's this, who's that, you know, and I just like, they've become my church, and they've become my meeting and my mental health help. And when I'm down or I have a doctor's appointment because they know I have some health issues going on, you know, if they see me post a picture and I look a little peaked, they're like, Jen, no disrespect, we love you, but what's going on? You don't look like you. Are you all right? Do you need this? Do you need that? You know, and then the fact that they have received my Amazon wish list with open arms the way they have, and have restored my faith in humanity. Dude, it's like, why'd I wait so long? Like, this is such a beautiful thing and such a beautiful community. Oh, and guys, I'm going to list in the description box down below Jordan's Instagram, his Facebook page, and his YouTube channel as well. So you guys can go and follow. And I'm going to be checking to see who is following and who is not. We're going to be doing a giveaway for one of these bad boys. So I love it so much that I feel it's super important for you guys to be able to take advantage of this. And I'm going to be, Jordan, as you guys know, I just said yesterday in a live that I did, but Jordan donated an entire box of these beautiful babies to me, and I'm going to be including them in my go bags, and 4 of them are going to county jail for each pod in my area, and 1 of them is going to you lovely people. So the giveaway will be anybody who comments down below and follows Jordan on all of his social media will be entered into a giveaway. I will do a random number generator, and I will check to make sure you guys follow the rules. So is there anything that you would like to touch on?
So there's something I want to talk about. So this was my debut memoir, and I'm humbled that it won Best Book of the Year from Indies Today. To me, that is, I think we pulled off like a good story, but I also believe that there's a sort of sadness to that because it touches on opioid addiction, the recovery community, and it's at a time where addiction overdoses have skyrocketed. So Haven, from my book at Outside and Needle Exchange in Portland, Oregon, I've often heard her referred to as the heroine of harm reduction, but she's a huge part of my story. And I reached out to her, and I've been talking with her a lot because I'm working on a new book based on harm reduction. It's a fictional overdose event in Portland, but it's how people in the harm reduction community respond to that. And I was a taker for a long time. I would like go to the syringe exchange and I would take, and I would get tested, but I never gave back. Working with Haven and learning more about what happens on the other side has blown my mind. I always knew that there was like this urgency and this deep, like this desire to help people who use drugs. I had no idea how deep it ran.
It's not a desire, it's a calling. It's literally a life calling.
Yeah.
Live, breathe, eat, sleep your people. Like it's just, you become so invested in their lives and who they are and who you know they can be, and it enwraps you. It truly does. I have some people that I'm honored to work, all my people I'm honored to work with, but there's a few that they're like on the brink, and I'm praying for them, and I'm cheering them on, and I'm rooting them on quietly, and I'm just waiting for them to take that one next step, and they're going to be on their pathway to recovery. And it is so beautiful to watch people become their full potential in life. And it's beautiful. And I know she's the same exact way. I know she is, you know? And just from the way you speak about her, or the things that I've written, because I've gotten to read parts of the other book, you know, I'm super stoked for it. I think it's going to be just, you wrote this first one so eloquently and so well that I'm so excited, and I hope this is the beginning of a whole series. And good job. Just good job.
Yeah, I love it, because I've learned that we can, I don't want to say trick people into learning about things, but I've learned through writing that you can draw people in with your story. And then when you have them, you can be like, okay, here I'm going to teach you about how to respond to an overdose, or here I'm going to teach you how to administer naloxone safely. And here I'm going to teach you like how to do this, how to do that. And it's super fun, because you get to like share this information with people that may not be willing to learn about it in any other setting. But you get them.
Entertaining them too.
What was that?
You're entertaining them too.
Yeah, when
someone's being entertaining, they're entertained rather. They're not realizing like school is happening, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome. So, but I wanted to say, like, I love what you're doing with your go bags. I love your people. I love the community. I saw that delivery you got, which is all the donations, and that's awesome, you guys. Everyone out there that's doing something to make a difference. Yeah, there's a lot. People remember that. People will remember what people do for you when you're down and out. And I know that was such a driving force for me, was in many ways going back and thanking people for all they did to help get me where I am. And we do recover, and we can go on to live wildly successful lives. We can make a difference. We can make an impact. We can make a change, and we can make a change for the better. And it's really, it's hard to see far ahead when you're stuck in it, but it's out there. And if anyone out there is struggling with addiction, know that there is help, that there is a way out if you want it, and that there's an unlimited amount of resources and kind souls out there that will drop everything at a moment's notice to help get you to wherever you need, be it detox, whatever, recover. Right. I mean, that's like the beautiful thing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely and totally agree with you. You know, when you're trying and doing the next right thing, you would be surprised people will step up out of the woodwork. Yeah. You know, I have such a support system that I never, ever would have thought would ever be possible. And it's just amazing. The gifts of sobriety are just beautiful and ever evolving, just like people in recovery. And I have my bad days. I'm sure everybody else does, but it's never as bad as my best high.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm super grateful to be who I am and where I am today. And, you know, Jordan, I want to thank you. You got up super, super early to come hang out with us today, and I'm grateful for that. And, you know, thank you for being here. Thank you for your beautiful, beautiful donation. I do not get donations like that ever, because I'm always worried about, you know, staples as far as hygiene and, you know, undergarments and, you know, snacks and things like that. But sometimes we need to nourish the mind as well and plant seeds of promise. And that's what this does, in my opinion. So thank you so much for being here today. The next one, when it comes out, we'll have to have you back for sure. You better put me first on your, you know, interview list, because I know you're going to be like big, crazy, famous guy now.
Come on.
And I just want to say thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. I'm really grateful, and have a wonderful day. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So guys, I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. And remember, we recover loudly, so those behind us do not suffer in silence. Bye, guys.